Hey guys, and welcome back to part two of Hannibal Barca. And now part two is going to pick up with what was happening elsewhere during the Second Hannibalic War. While Hannibal is in Italy, just marching around, burning crops, attacking local unwalled, unprotected towns, the Romans are engaging the Carthaginians elsewhere in the Mediterranean. They're still fighting on the seas. The Carthaginians won back in on Sicily. They're fighting in Spain. Their fighting hasn't really hit Africa yet. They're just fighting on the peripheries. They're still fighting on seas. The Romans and the Carthaginians are contesting each other there. They're fighting in Sicily and in Spain, and the war is not going well for the Romans. On top of just being embarrassed at home in Italy, they're being embarrassed in Spain as well. The Romans did not really endear themselves to the native Celtiberians of Spain. They're just under siege everywhere. And now, and as far as 2011, not 2011, 211 BCE, the Roman cause appeared lost. They suffered two devastating defeats in Spain in that year alone. And it is at this point that Scipio, the great Scipio, Publius Cornelius Scipio, who was 25 at that point, he's chosen to be the Roman commander in Spain. And 25 is relatively young. He will still be considered a baby in the Roman political order. But he is given the extraordinary command in Spain. And in 4 years, he defeats the Carthaginians of Spain. And a little on Scipio. The reason that Scipio was really given the command isn't because the Romans said that he looked like he may have a battle plan for it. He looked like he may be the guy to win it. Nobody wanted to go out there and embarrass themselves in Spain. This was thought that he didn't really have a political future. He didn't have any great stakes in politics. He was really unknown. Nobody who had really the ambition to be a Roman consul or to be the big man in Rome was going to go out there and ruin his reputation by fighting, by losing, or participating in a disastrous war. But Scipio, he was young enough and literally didn't have a name for himself, so they just said, why not? Let's just let him go out there and do this. And in 4 years, he pretty much whips an army into shape and goes out there and defeats the Carthaginians of Spain and really just ends the Carthaginian Empire in Spain. All of their interest in Spain, he extinguishes it all in 4 years. And now the Carthaginians, still aware that Hannibal is in Italy and that the Romans are not going to fight him in Italy, the Carthaginians decide to go on this major gamble. They decide, and this is the last great continental offensive of the Carthaginians in the Second Punic War. They send this one last offensive effort under Hasdrubal, Hannibal's younger brother. A lot of Hannibals, a lot of Hasdrubals in the family. They send the expedition under Hasdrubal, and he's traveling from Spain through southern France and through the Alps, just like his brother. However, he is intercepted by the Romans in North Italy, and he's defeated. There's no reinforcement, and this force was being sent by troops who knew how to conduct. It was a resupplyment of war materials and troops, but it was also an army of men who knew how to conduct sieges. The intent was that they would send Hannibal the men who knew how to conduct sieges and the war engines, the siege engines, to conduct the siege. So now Hannibal's brother is defeated, and Hannibal didn't know that he was being resupplied. He didn't even know that it was his brother being sent to resupply him. The way he found out was that the Romans catapulted his brother's head into his camp. All right, now that pretty much ends the any thought of Hannibal bringing the Italians or the Romans to heel. There's to be no more efforts at resupplying Hannibal. Now the Romans, they've staved off the Carthaginians. They staved off their attempts at attacking or holding Sicily or Spain. All right, now, and then they're quickly gaining the upper hand on the sea, but they still don't have a way to bring the Carthaginians to heel, and they still don't have a way to draw Hannibal out of Italy. And Scipio comes up, fresh off his victories in Spain. He comes up with the idea to invade Africa itself, to invade and threaten the city of Carthage itself, reasoning that if he was away from home and he found out that Rome was about to be attacked, then he would have to withdraw his forces and defend his home city. He would have to defend home. So he invades Africa, and Hannibal, once news reaches Hannibal, Hannibal simply packs up his army and leaves Italy, and he's allowed to do it. The Romans don't really prevent him from going. They allow him to withdraw and to bring his forces back home, to bring his forces back to Africa proper. Now, and this sets everything up for the Battle of Zama. And now Hannibal, he's going up, and this is the year 203. Sorry about that, 203 BCE, and the two face off in Zama, and the fighting was intense. It's said that it was intense, and Hannibal was he was defeated. He was really just outschooled, outmatched, and one thing is that Hannibal, one of the great keys to his success in Italy in particular was that he had the opportunity to really get a feel, get a sense for the land, for the terrain, and back in Africa, for the Battle of Zama, he really didn't get that sense. The battlefield really wasn't his choice. It wasn't where he would have thought to defend. It wasn't where he would have preferred to defend, and the fighting didn't really go in the manner in which he would have thought, or what he would have preferred to go to getting to. So he's defeated, and he's forced to retreat. And the moment Hannibal is defeated, the war is over. Hannibal was the last card that the Carthaginians really had to play. After he's defeated, the Carthaginians promptly begin to enter peace negotiations with the Romans, and the Romans they impose a heavy indemnity, an even larger indemnity than was imposed on the Carthaginians after the First Punic War. They're forced to pay 100,000 talents, and I mean it's just a massive amounts of money. I mean, but it goes even further than that. They had to give up all the Spanish territory, sort of goes without saying. But even worse of all, they must reduce their navy to 10 ships. Large tracts of Carthaginian territory in Africa have to be given away, and they're given away to Roman allies. Roman allies who are hostile to Carthage are given large amounts of Carthaginian territory in Africa. Excuse me. Hannibal, for his part, after the Second Punic War, he spent the next 20 years just wandering the Mediterranean, sort of like a curiosity. It's almost like the Old West tour shows, and what they had Native American fighters simply tour cities and so forth, and recount what happened to them. Most people simply wanted to hear stories, old war stories of him defying the Romans. And for his part, he's sort of forced to do this. He doesn't really have a choice. He can't go back to Carthage. If he goes back there, the Romans are forcing the Carthaginians to simply hand him over. The only reason he escaped Roman custody at the end of the war, after the Battle of Zama, is because the Carthaginians simply allowed him to escape. They still wouldn't turn him over to the Romans. And so he spent the next 20 years simply wandering the Mediterranean, and wherever he went, he would stay for a while. And shortly after his arrival, an embassy would be sent from the Romans, saying that either he be turned over to them or he be expelled. And for his part, nobody turned him over. Everybody simply said, "Hey, Hannibal, you got to go. The Romans have sent a message." So he simply just took on a wandering tour of the Mediterranean, and he evaded capture by the Romans for the rest of his life. He eventually commits suicide after being cornered in North Africa. So if you have romantic feeling for him or feel some sort of way about him and is standing up to Roman authorities, you can take heart in the fact that the Romans never got their hands on him, that he took his own life and evaded what would have been surely a very degrading and gruesome end in Rome had the Romans brought him back to Rome. Uh, and for the Romans, for their part, the Second Punic War really marked the moment in which it became clear that Rome was going to be the master of the Mediterranean. That there would be no other power. That there would be there'd be no task, no duty, no obstacle that she wouldn't endure to become the mistress of the Mediterranean. After the Second Punic War, she is left an undisputed command of the Western Mediterranean. The only power that could have rivaled her has been not just humbled, but just defeated. There's Carthage really never recovers from the Second Punic War. She can't recover. She can't attack the hostile peoples around her. She can't attack them because the Romans imposed that she can't declare war without Rome's permission. She has all these fine little restrictions on her that just prevent her from ever coming close to being the power that she was. Whereas the Romans, they simply take over vast tracts of land. They're sort of forced to put into place the mechanisms that would allow them to govern far-flung territories and provinces, which is what they're forced to do in Spain. They now have to reorganize Spain into provinces. They have to establish a political mechanism for sending out governors, for recalling governors, for civil administration, for taxation, for basically harnessing the raw materials and the mineral materials, and then also the human resources of Spain to fit Roman interest, Roman imperial interest. But the biggest impact on Rome will be that she would no longer brook opposition. There would never be a Roman sphere of influence over here and then a native people's influence. There would only be Rome's ambitions. And once you've been identified as a Roman enemy, the only logical conclusion was that we will fight you and fight you and fight you until we grind you down and incorporate you into our possessions. And an interesting sort of look into this is that once Rome had taken possession of Spain, it became necessary more than ever to secure southern France. And so very quickly after Spain had brought into the Roman Empire, the Romans quickly bring in southern France, modern day, let's say, Provence, modern day Provence, into Roman authority. As a matter of fact, the name Provence is it literally just descends from province. It was known as the Provincia, simply the province that linked Italy to Spain. They very quickly after the Punic Wars bring that area under Roman control. And as I said earlier, Carthage, she never recovers. This is the end of her ascendancy. She's simply just a footnote in history. No, but not really a footnote. I mean, you can wax poetic about Carthage and her achievements, just as you can for the Romans and their achievements. But Carthage would never be another big power. This is the end of her ascendancy. She has no navy. The majority of her African holders are given away to hostile neighbors, and she's just a shell of a former glory. And that pretty much wraps up this lecture on Hannibal Barca and his career and the effects of his career on the Western Mediterranean. I hope you guys enjoyed them. I wanted to just do one lecture, but it was just becoming way too long, and so I just decided to break them up into part 1 and part 2. But I do hope you guys enjoyed the lecture. I hope you guys that you find some sort of enlightenment from these lectures, and hope you guys tune in for more. And as always, hit the like button, hit the subscribe button, and leave a comment. If you liked the lecture, if you didn't like the lecture, if you want to discuss something else, just let me know.